to go fill in that baseline survey, I'm going to ask my very good brother Dainduka Joseph to resend those surveys in the different groups, just so you can be able to see it. It takes less than 2 minutes to be able to fill that in. We as OCOM need you to fill in that baseline survey because it helps inform us on whether or not we are doing an effective job in this particular public speech training program. And we want to deliver the best job as we can because we are professionals and we pride in professionalism. So it is my humble request to all of us on the call, if you have not yet for some reason been able to fill in the baseline surveys, they are being resent right now by my good brother Joseph Tahinduka in the different groups. Kindly spare some time. It takes less than 2 minutes. Our session is beginning at 10 minutes past 8. You could still be on the call and still fill in that survey. You don't need to leave the call. You only need to minimize mute and still be able to fill in that survey. We have few people that have filled it in as compared to our class numbers. I please urge all of us, wherever we are, to please fill in these baseline surveys. Our second policy, apart from the baseline survey, is the attendance policy. And the attendance policy is to the effect that at least every single person must have attended 80% of the classes in their particular schedule. So some particular people have also been removed from the program by organization committee due to failure to be able to fill in or to be able to attend up to 80% of the lessons as they ought to attend them. So it is still my humble request to all of us that are still with us right now. The reason as to why you are still with us right now is because you have been on a bare minimum able to attend most of the lessons. You have been able to do the tests as they ought to have been done, and you have been able to fill in the baselines. So these are very simple instructions that we provide as OCOM to all of us here on this particular call. And it is still my humble appeal that these particular regulations are adhered to smoothen the good running of this particular program and not to have any particular inconveniences, and to making sure that we get you the best sort of products that you ought to get. So like I was saying, we have some people that have been off the program due to failure of observing basic policies. One of them is the baseline policy. The other one is the attendance policy of 80%. And most notable is the test policy. Some of them were not able to do all the tests, and then others asked out of their own heart to be removed from the program simply because they had other engagements elsewhere and did not want to give divided attention. So for us that are still on the program, I would like to congratulate you for having been able to make it this far into this program. And I would love to urge you to look at our groups, at our announcement group. We try as much as we can to be able to announce these things prior and to give you enough time to do these tests, and release our baselines at least 2 hours before the class so that you have enough time to fill this in. So right now, baselines are still on the group, and it is a prerequisite if you were here during orientation. For you to be able to attend these classes, you ought to have filled in these baselines. Guys, the baselines take you less than 2 minutes to be able to fill in. So you only have 2 minutes to fill in these baselines. So please let us use this particular time to fill in the baselines as we wait for our particular facilitator to be able to join us today and to take us through this session. Once again, these sessions are being streamed live on YouTube, and you could do well to follow us on our YouTube channel for Debate Institute Africa to be able to get such programs and any other programming within the realm of public speech, debates, and I think poetry. So let us use this time to be able to fill in the baseline. I'm just going to be getting my other device to join the call that I use for roll call, just so we can be able to start with no inconveniences. So as of now, I welcome everyone that has been able to join, and I congratulate you for having reached this far, because some people have actually been removed from the program. But nonetheless, from me to you guys, congratulations for having reached far. We're about to start in a few. But as of now, I still urge all of us to still really fill in those baselines. Please let us do that. Okay, so we are about to begin our session, and our facilitator for today's session is with us. Our session for today is public speaking adjudication, assessment, criteria, and techniques. So you have been with us for the past week or so, but for this particular session is when we begin the actual gist of public speaking. So before we have been doing the preamble, ethics in public speech, introduction to public speech, and very many other things. But as of now, where we are at, we are getting into the actual gist of the matter. And in a very few, I'm going to be introducing our particular facilitator for today's session. So our facilitator for today's session is a very celebrated intellect all around East Africa and Africa. And if you want to borrow the words of the common day youth, he is among the African giants. His name is Bakari Elijah, and he is from Kenya, I presume. And apart from that, he is pretty much very decorated within the art of public speech, and he has experience that has spanned quite close to a decade or more than that, both as a speaker, as an adjudicator, and as a chief adjudicator too of various tournaments. Most notable this year is that he is the chief adjudicator for public speech in the East African University Debate Championships that are happening still this year. And at the same time, he has been on various panels where he has been on the co-adjudication panel and the chief adjudicator still of the prestigious Pan-African University Debate Championship. So for us that are here and have not heard of PAUDC, that is more like how you would look at the Champions League of debate and public speech spaces. It's more like something Arsenal has not yet been able to reach at, but we have a professional in our midst. His reputation really does precede him. And okay, all right, his reputation really does precede him, and he is able to share with us today. So without any further indulgence, I would like to hand over to Elijah Bakari. But before Elijah comes in, he is going to be able to introduce himself and take us through this particular session. I would want to remind all of us, each of us on this particular call, that the organization in charge of this particular training, Debate Institute Africa, always has baseline surveys that you need to be able to fill in before you are eligible for these particular classes. These baselines help better inform our decision making on whether these classes are actually working or not. So it is my humble appeal that you really do fill in these baselines. You're not going to be able to proceed to do any tests or to hand in the same tests if these baselines are not filled, and as thus your tests will not be marked, and quite unfortunately you might be removed from the program. But nonetheless, I would like to hand over the microphone to Elijah Bakari to be able to take us through from here. So Elijah, you are most welcome. You are free to unmute and then start the session. The session is being streamed live on YouTube. So whenever you are ready, good sir, you could take us through. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Because I'm an interactive speaker, I usually like to have the people listening to me interact. So I do hope that each and every one of you can hear me. And I will highly encourage you to use the in-call messages right there. So just say hello or something, just so that I know the people on the other side who are listening and all that. Most of the sessions today also give me a reaction, like Peter is doing excellent. Most of this session is going to be excessively interactive. So if your plan was to merely listen and not interact, I will warn you in advance that is not going to happen. I am a very interactive speaker. Even when I'm online, I like to make the session interactive. I always say that whenever you have a session like this, it's not just, for me, it's not a lecture. For me, this is an opportunity for us to interact, learn from each other. Yes, even as we all grow within this particular space. I am seeing we have like 36 people, but only 2 people have said hello. So I highly encourage that we all say hello so that I can successfully proceed. Long as you can hear my voice, just say hello or just say something and we will be able to proceed. Now, some ground rules that will help us during this particular session is, like I said, it's very interactive. So there is enough times where I will ask questions. When I ask a question, kindly answer. I like to tell people I'm not looking to hear the correct answer. It is my job as the facilitator to ensure that you have knowledge and that you actually learn. So if I ask a question and you do not have the correct answer, that is still okay. I still want to get that answer. In my sessions, the only wrong answer is silence. I'll say that again. The only wrong answer is silence. So as the session is going on, feel free to put up a comment. Feel free to say anything. Yes, feel free. Feel free to put it in the messages. If something really touches you or you feel is very important, give a reaction. If something is thought provoking, if something is interesting, if something is laughable, give a reaction. Essentially, make this session very interactive. Now, 3 questions that I know I will be asking a lot throughout this session. These are questions that come by default, I guess, because of the way some of us engage in training a lot. There are questions that we notice come out of our systems without us necessarily being conscious of the fact that we're doing it. So I'm preparing you psychologically for that, and also ensuring you know how to respond so that I can keep moving. The first question you will hear a lot is, are you learning? I will ask that question a lot. Are you learning? In the case I do answer that question, in the case I do ask that question, kindly respond with a yes, because I trust you will be learning then. Even now as I speak, you probably, I hope you're also learning. So let's just do a practice session so that this session is flawless for me. Let me try that. Now let me try that. So say I was saying something, then I said, are we learning? What do? You respond with a yes. Let's just do that very quickly. Just a few more. There's 36 of us. So excellent. So that's the first question I'll be asking. Are we learning? The question I'll also ask significantly is, are we together? Are we together? I'm going to ask those 2 questions. Are we learning and are we together? And then if at any point I feel like I have said something very powerful or very interesting, I am likely also going to say, am I changing your life? Now, I know I'm only saying public speaking here, specifically public speaking adjudication, but I think anyone who has seen what public speaking can do for a person would understand that when I ask whether I'm changing your life or not, if you're learning anything in public speaking, it is definitely changing your life, because I think you all know the opportunities, the various opportunities that one can get, the various ways our lives can improve simply because we have the capacity to do excellent public speaking. There are so many opportunities we can get. So if I ask, am I changing your life? I know it is not life coaching, I know it is public speaking, adjudication training, but just say yes so that I know we are together. My challenge is, because I'm a very interactive speaker, when I don't get response from the audience, I freeze or I do not know what to do. So to ensure that you receive maximum edification from this particular engagement, I ask and beseech you greatly that you ensure you are responding. So let's try that last question together. Let me also get a yes. Am I changing your life? Let me get a few yeses so that I know to proceed. Yes. Okay. Excellent. This is going to be a wonderful session, I can already tell. Now, just for the record, when it comes to any particular tournament, competition, and not just tournament and competition, because we do public speaking adjudication not only in tournament and competition, but in other settings as well. The integrity of that tournament, the integrity of that competition is very much specifically determined by the integrity of the adjudication. That means if the adjudicators are horrible at adjudicating, the integrity of the tournament has already been compromised. So even when we have no corruption, even when we have no problems whatsoever, if the adjudication is horrible and let me say it is not standard, like one person gives you very high marks, another one gives you very low marks for the same speech, if it is not standard, the integrity of that tournament has already been compromised. And this is why learning about public speaking adjudication is very important, is very useful, and has the most impact. So I'll say it again. It is important as an adjudicator to learn the standard of adjudication that is being used at a particular engagement and ensure that you fully understand what system, what grading, what considerations are being taken into account. Then as you understand that, and this especially will go for the chief adjudicators, ensure that your judges fully understand how they will allocate scores, how they will allocate marks for those particular criteria that are being used. It is important, ladies and gentlemen, to have a case where if Judge A listens to a speech and if Judge Z listens to a speech, the kind of scores they will award are either the same or at least very similar. By very similar, I mean plus or minus 2. I hope we are together. Are we together, ladies and gentlemen? So I always try to strive for it to be plus or minus. That was the point where you are supposed to say yes. I asked, are we together? Just for the record. I thought you were listening. Anyway, wonderful. Let me go on. So as I was saying, it is very important to be able to bring it to like plus or minus 2. Because in a number of tournaments, we do not have time to take all participants through all panels so that all the biases can be applied to each participant and they can be neutralized. There are times where you have 10 rooms, all right, but then you can only do 5 rounds. That means there are there are 5 instances that maybe a participant will not interact with a particular judge. So if they end up with very high scoring judges, then that becomes a problem because they might not be a very good speaker, yet they will be very much higher in the top. Similarly, you can have a situation where somebody is very good, but because they've been given low scoring judges, and this is what happens when judging is not standard, they don't do very well, yet they're an amazing speaker. They could be a speaker that is even finals worthy, but then you could kick them out and they couldn't even make quarters if judging is not standardized. Now, it is for this reason, ladies and gentlemen, that we introduce public speaking judging specifically. And I'm going to, of course, be taking you through public speaking adjudication. My hope is that as I take us through this, we are going to learn. I want to share my screen. We're going to learn. I'll take you through a number of schemes that are used to judge. I have been involved in a number of places where we have used a number of very different schemes. So my hope is that I'll have time to be able to show you a number of these schemes. So, okay. Somebody confirm that they can see my screen. Can somebody confirm that they can see my screen? Just a minute, allow me to make an adjustment. Okay, somebody confirm that they can see my screen.
Yeah, surely.
Excellent, thank you very much. So at this point in time, I think I'll ask Harold, because of how I'm sharing this particular screen, I might not be able to read the messages. So I'll ask Harold to help in the case somebody. I want to take us through some speech marking and grading. I'm going to take you through a few systems and then you're going to understand. But right before I get into most of the systems that we have used in tournaments and competitions, I just want to find out, are there people amongst us who perhaps have previously also done Toastmasters? Because that's also a number of evaluation criteria. I will not necessarily cover it during this particular session because, there's up to, whether we're talking about all the competent communicator manuals, the first 10 or something, I will not necessarily cover those particular instances, but I just want to know if there are those of us that have been exposed. You can say yes or no at this point. I'm still looking at the messages. Yes or no. Have we perhaps been exposed? A few of us seem to have been exposed. If you've not been exposed to the Toastmasters systems, you can say no. Okay, I see that a few of us who have not been exposed. There's a number of us who have been exposed. I highly encourage everyone who's present to kindly answer. It gives me a better feel of what we are working with. Excellent. All right. So we have a number of people who have been exposed. There's those of us who have not been exposed. So that is one of the criteria I'll not go through today. But I highly encourage those of you that have already been exposed, you can share those with the others that have not been exposed, and let's just help grow the space, because there's also a wonderful criteria for marking and grading speeches that can be found there. Now, let me move over to today's session. I want us to cover some speech marking and grading. I'll say it again. If we have not standardized our speech marking and our speech grading at any tournament, then we have already created a problem, because the integrity of that tournament has been compromised. Compromising integrity is not just corruption. Compromising integrity is also incompetence. Fortunately, because we have this session, we are going to deal with the issue of incompetence and ensure that everyone who is in this session and those who get to listen to it after will be competent speakers. So, of course, we want to ask ourselves whether the speech we are listening to is treasure or is trash. Are we together? We want to know, is the speech we are listening to treasure or trash? And to determine whether the speech is treasure or trash, it is going to be your job as an adjudicator. So there is let me see what to do. There is various standards, and I'm going to give you the marks for this, but I just wanted to first give you a general spread. There are various things we can consider when we are grading people. And in public speaking, we generally are usually very generous people, or at least in the experiences I have been at in public speaking, we have always been very generous. We have always awarded people marks for just showing up. Now, in the next section, I will be telling you what kind of marks and all that, but I just wanted to go through just a few of the levels, then I'll take you through the marks and the skills. So one of the things we have always awarded people marks is purely showing up. Because you showed up, we'll give you marks. That's it. You showed up, whether you spoke or you just said your name and then you did not give us a speech. A number of times as adjudicators, there is very basic marks we give people for showing up, because it takes courage, of course, for them to stand up on stage and attempt to speak. Notice I said attempt to speak. They might not necessarily succeed, but by just showing up, there is marks we award for that. Now, there are speeches you will listen to, and you will clearly get the fact that the speakers that are speaking, or the speaker who is speaking, is a speaker who clearly needs intervention when it comes to speaking. They need to attend sessions at the academy for them to be taught public speaking, because clearly they are not ready. There is a lot of work that they need to do. And I call these speeches that really need some training intervention. And then there are speeches we listen to and you are like, that speech is quite poor. Like, it fails to meet average standards, it is below standards and all that. And this will especially happen where a person is not yet exposed to speaking. So because they have not been exposed to speaking, the quality of their speeches can be quite horrible, or can be clearly it's someone who needs work. So I'll get into the details of this. I just wanted to take you first through the general things. Then there are speeches that are just below average. The average speaker and this particular speaker you're listening to are not the same. The average speaker is way better than the speech you're listening to. So this person can speak, but really compare them to your average everyday speaker, you can tell they are not up to standard. Then of course we have your average speaker. This is most people really. How do most people present a speech when they are given the opportunity? How do their speeches appear? How do their speeches sound and all that? So these are average speakers. Then at this point, we start to have speakers who are good. Speakers who can really capture your attention. Speakers who can have you go like, oh, that is actually a good speaker. So this is another category of speakers we can have. Then of course, we have speakers who make you who are just very good. You just want to hug them or something and say, my goodness, as a speaker, as a participant, you are very good. Clearly, these are people usually who have practiced. These are probably not first-time speakers. They have spoken before. They probably have been exposed to training and other tournaments and competitions. So these are speakers who are very good. Then, of course, we have speakers who have you hitting your head wondering, oh my goodness, what did I just listen to? What did I just listen to? Is this real? Somebody pinch me. I must be dreaming. So the speakers who can really have that effect. Okay, the kind of speakers who really make you fall in love with them, fall in love with their speech, And I like to say that such speakers, when you look at the value of their speech, what they have brought to the table is just something else. And that is why at this point you can call this particular speech excellent. So you'll have speakers who at the highest level, these speakers are excellent. And at this level, these are the kind of speakers who can even win the world championship. So African champions, people who can win African championship, people who can win especially world championship, these are speeches that are beyond. These are speeches that are excellent. Like I said, they'll have you hitting your head, wondering what did I just listen to. They'll have you falling in love with the speech. They'll have you falling in love with the speaker. I mean, wow, that's all you can do. Like all you can say is wow, amazing, and all that. So we have such kind of speeches. And I like to say what makes these speeches amazing is it's not usually in using complicated words or complicated vocabulary, but sometimes they can use, and many times in fact they use very basic words, but then the way they make the tapestry of their speech, the way they take those basic strings of their speech, and the way they start to weave their words, the way they start to weave their phrases, the way they start to weave their sentences, by the end of the day you end up with such a beautiful, beautiful tapestry. And as an adjudicator, it is your job, of course, to ensure that you have caught this beautiful and wonderful tapestry that has been presented to you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I really hope we are learning. Are we learning? Ah, excellent. Yes, wonderful. We are learning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Keep those yeses coming. Keep those yeses, and we are learning coming. I like that. I like that. So as I was saying, they weave the perfect tapestry. But I think going by the fact that there have already been trainings that have gone on, I think this is something that many of you understand, that we do not have an excellent speech based off the fact that they used high level vocabulary and all that. I like to remind people the onus of a good speaker is the onus to be understood is on the speaker. Therefore, if the speaker is not understood, no matter how advanced their English is, the truth is they are not a good public speaker. The onus to be understood is on that speaker. So that speaker must ensure they are understood. And as a judge, this is something you want to check for. Now, I want to take you through, I'll take you maybe through about 3 different ways that we have previously been able to evaluate speeches. Now, one of the ways we have previously been able to evaluate speeches is something we call easy marking. Some of you might have seen it, easy marking. So in this particular method, the method that is used to determine the quality of a speech would be inspection. Now, I must give a warning, even as I go into this one. This method will generally not be used by novice judges and even intermediate. This method will especially be used by advanced judges. And when I get into other forms of marking that have more detail, you will understand why I said we prefer to limit this particular method of adjudication to very advanced judges. So they would have a number of different, let me say, different places, or rather different intervals where a speech can be called excellent, where a speech can be called very good, where a speech can be called good, a speech can be called average, a speech can be called below average, a speech can be poor, a speech can be very poor, and sometimes we just award people marks for showing up. Now, I must warn, whatever the intervals of this particular method of marking is, many times will depend on the particular competition and the decision that has been made by CAP. That is if they choose this particular method, which is a possibility specifically in a case where the panel that is adjudicating is a very, very advanced panel. So in a case where the panel that is adjudicating is a very, very advanced panel, they might decide to use this rather than the more detailed mechanisms of marking that that I will show you within this particular presentation. Now, allow me to share a different screen. We will come back to this screen, but let me share a different screen. Yes. Give me a minute as I get into it. Mhm. All right. So I hope you can see this particular screen, ladies and gentlemen. Kindly confirm you can see this. All right, thank you very much. So let me take you through some easy marking. Now, the thing with inspection marking, also called easy marking enough times, is the fact that, like I said, we only work it with advanced speakers. Now, because I love my session being interactive, I will not read the various sections, but I will rather throw it over to you who are listening to me. Just raise your hand. I think Harold, you'll make a pick as people are raising their hand, because I think you can see that side. Harold, you'll make a pick as people raise their hands. Then let's have someone ask what criteria qualifies for simply showing up. Then I will do some explanation if need be. Who will read this for us?
Okay, Odonkar has put up his hand and Ibrahim. So I think let Ibrahim read it for us. Ibrahim, whenever you're ready, you can unmute and read for us.
All right. So for showing up, this participant did not give any speech. Therefore, there is no message communicated by speech. The speaker may have come on stage only as a model or may have chosen to interpret the topic or title via facial expression or interpretive dance, to mention just a few creative ways this could have been done.
Thank you very much. So essentially, this speaker did not tell us anything in terms of a speech. It was the opportunity to come on stage. They got the opportunity to come on stage, but then they were so afraid they could not speak. But then they realized, this is my time. So, it's your time to shine. So, I have to do something. So they decided to, make faces, usually nervous faces, or where the face shows a lot of nerve. I still think that's facial expression. So we have to award them for that. So their faces just showed a lot of nerve. They're just so nervous. Some might have chosen, because they're well dressed, to just model or catwalk on stage. And then those who are more daring might even do an interpretive dance of the topic or title. Some might even choose this opportunity to do a protest or something. So because they simply showed up, we will give them marks, ladies and gentlemen, because we are good people. As public speaking adjudicators, we are wonderful people. We like to encourage people. So we can give them that marks for showing up. So you might notice something in my slides. The marks that you can see in the slides and the marks that you can see here will be different. The reason I'm saying this is because inspection marking very many times is determined by that particular tournament and how the chief adjudicators for that particular tournament feel about what they want. So I'm just giving you a sample, but a number of times there can be more intervals. And then sometimes, like here, I have started the one I'm showing you, the marks have started at 50. But I think in my slides, you also saw there is a different setting where the marks will start at 60. Sometimes they can choose to even make them go and start from below 50. Again, all this will be at the discretion of the chief adjudication panel that you have. All right. So whoever is in cap at that moment, yeah, those are the people that will determine that. Now let's read the next one. Very poor. Somebody read that for us. Harold, over to you.
Okay, Mildred, you can read that for us. Chekwech Mildred, if that's how the pronunciation is, you could read that out for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Needs intervention. This speaker needs to join our public speaking academy if they are not to be involved in any form of speaking. Otherwise, they should be advised to focus strictly in school and get into careers that do not involve speaking at all. They do not capture your attention at all. Their message also fails to come out clearly.
Just for the record, this is true, but as I should probably say, and I know a session will be covered on this, as a public speaking adjudicator, you won't tell this to people. You won't tell this to people in their faces. You will not break hearts and kill dreams. This is just something you will know. So I'm not telling people to After listening to a speech in feedback, you're telling them, you need to focus in school and probably come to a public speaking academy. You do not capture our attention at all. Your message really fails to come out clearly. Please, let's not tell this to people during feedback, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to break a number of hearts, and I don't think that is our intention. When we are adjudicating, we're also there to help people grow. So don't tell people you should just focus in school. Go back to school, focus, do something that will not need you to do public speaking. So I've written this just so that you know, inside this is what is going on. But on the surface, I think a session will be covered on feedback. You will be advised on how to do that. I'll not do that because the person who's going through feedback and how you do feedback is amazing and will do a good job. So I'll not get into feedback. But this is just for you to know. That's what I'm saying. This is just for you to know. This is not what you tell speakers. Moving on over to the next one. Harold, let's have someone else.
Okay, I don't know if you want to have someone else, but it's the same
Whoever
people
is
that
there,
keep
whoever
on.
is available.
All right, sure. Shivani Navasa, you could please kindly unmute and read for us the next session.
Okay, the next one is poor. The speaker here seems to want to convey a message. However, this message is not getting there. There is need for some serious training. The speaker cannot capture the attention of your average listener and still fails to come out clearly.
Thank you. So this particular speaker cannot capture the attention of an average listener. All right. So the average listener will be distracted if this speaker is speaking. The average listener will be lost in thought. The average listener will not pay attention when this speaker is speaking. So when you have that particular occurrence, then you can confidently rate that the speech that is being given is a poor speech. Ladies and gentlemen, are we learning? Are we learning? Now you can clearly see the difference between poor and very poor. Okay. I hope that difference is coming out. Even though, like I said, when I get into markings that are more detailed, you will be able to understand more and make more sense. Now, let's have someone else on this one. Someone else, whoever raises their hand. Excellent.
Okay, so let us have just a moment. Let us have Charles or your code to unmute and be able to read for us that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Below average, the speaker has clear problems that would be evident to the average listener. Even without paying too much attention, it is easy to pick a number of challenges with a speech. You can tell that although there is potential, there is need for the speaker to get exposed to the speaking circles, and that seemingly this speaker has not been exposed to that before.
So it's very simple. This particular speaker has qualities that show you there is potential here. But even if you're an average listener, you're not a public speaking adjudicator, you're not paying too much attention or anything. Already, if you are exposed to this particular speech, you can tell that this particular speech is not up to standard. In fact, the average listener, the average person listening to a speech who is not very well trained, even in adjudication or trained at all, can already start to tell you this speech, this person should have done this and that, this person should have done this and that, this and that, this and that, so that the speech could be better. Therefore, at that point and at that level, you know that that quality of speech is below average. I think there is a question from Ekisa Shadrach. Let me hear that question. I'm assuming it's a question.
Okay, let me have a look at that. I just read it out right now. Oh my God.
No, the hand was raised. Unless
surely.
Ekisa, was it to ask a question, or do you want to read the next one?
I would believe maybe it was a mistake and you could just proceed.
All right, wonderful.
Normally happens.
Okay. So let's now hear about the average listener. Harold, over to you. Is Harold still in the call?
Okay, I want to confirm if I'm audible. My device has gone off the other one, but if I'm audible, I think I am. I'll
Yes.
just have to get someone else. Okay, let us have a sim with praise to be able to read for us the next particular session. Thank you.
We are on average.
Yes.
The
Yes.
speaker has clear problems that would be evident to any adequately experienced listener. Even without paying too much attention, it is easy to pick some challenges with the speech. You can tell that are things that the speaker needs to work on that will improve as the speaker is exposed to speaking circles. You have to be intentional to actually follow the speaker's speech, without which the speaker would lose you. Thank you.
Yes. So in this particular case, I'm talking especially about an experienced listener, for example, an adjudicator. It is specifically somebody who's a bit of an experienced listener that would easily pick challenges with this particular speech. The average speaker, the average listener might not necessarily have an easy time picking the problems in this speech. The one problem, though, that would be very evident in this speech is if you do not make intention to follow this particular speech, the speaker can lose you. They do not have the capacity at that moment to really capture your attention. So by virtue of they do not have the capacity to capture your attention, then they can lose you. So when you hear such a speech, you know that this speech is average. Of course, again, this is a person who, with a lot of practice, with more practice rather, will be able to achieve a lot more. Will be able to become a better speaker, the kind of speakers I'm about to start talking about in the next few sections of this particular session. So at this moment, when you hear a speaker who's doing exactly what we have read and what I have explained, you just know that's an average speaker. Depending, of course, on what kind of marks you've been told to assign, you will listen to whether they're on the lower side of that or the higher side of that. So are they on the lower side of average or the higher side of average? For example, here I have given an example where they could be rated anywhere from 66 to 70. So you will decide, are they 66, are they 70, are they 68, or what are they, depending on which side of that, of that spectrum you feel they are at. Ladies and gentlemen, I really do hope we are learning. So note here the difference between below average and average when it comes to the listener. Below average is even caught by the average listener. Okay. Average is especially caught by the experienced listener, and experienced listener is especially most people who are adjudicating. Okay. Most people who are adjudicating are experienced listeners, or rather would kind of qualify as experienced listeners. And then most adjudicators, you will really have to follow the speaker's speech so that they do not lose you. So you might not be lost because it is your job to ensure you follow. But I want you to take note and ask yourself, if an average person was listening to this speech without having to pay too much attention, would they be captured or would they be lost? Then if they would be lost, then definitely that's an average speech. Let's move over to good.
All right, Ibrahim, you could read good.
All right, good. The speaker has strengths and weaknesses in almost equal proportions. However, there are more strengths than weaknesses. This is the kind of speech you would get from a person who is not trained in public speaking, but possibly has had a number of opportunities to speak. The speaker can keep you relatively well glued to their speech.
Excellent. So this person might not necessarily have been trained, but by virtue of the fact that they have been exposed to gotten better, because they say practice makes perfect. This is very true even in public speaking. So even though this person has not been trained and this person has not, because when we train public speaking, there are strengths we will feed you with, there are things we will give to you that are going to make you amazing. But even if we have not trained you, even if you're not trained, by virtue of you keep taking up speaking opportunities, there is a quality of speech you will be able to give. And this is why we keep encouraging students to do those presentations in class. We encourage people at work to do those presentations at work. Because by virtue of being exposed to speaking, you already start to improve. Now, the same happens if there are family events and all that, and someone is needed to speak. We encourage people to speak, because the more you speak, the better you get. So this particular speaker, you can still see their weaknesses, but when it comes to what their strengths are in speech compared to their weaknesses, their strengths are a lot more. Now, because of that, you say that this is a good speech. This is a good speech. So this speaker can keep you relatively well glued. Okay, you don't have to struggle too much to follow their speech. They can keep you relatively well glued. Of course, the people who I'm about to talk about who are much higher than this are going to keep you even more glued. But at this level, you can at least be glued to the speech, you can follow it. And many speeches at family gatherings, to be honest, usually meet this level. They're just good speeches. When they pick whoever the best speaker in the family is, they are likely to give a good speech. So I hope we are taking note of that. I will ask again, are we learning? Of course, I was going to ask that. Excellent. We are learning. All right. I see your reactions. Thank you very much. So let's move to very good. Harold, are you still in the meeting?
Oh yeah, I'm in the meeting just a little bit.
All right.
Okay, so there are quite so many hands. I think everyone is learning. Just I saw your hand. So let us have Anthony Muduku to be able to read the next particular part. Thank you.
Very good. The standard you would expect to see from a speaker at the semi-finals level or in contention to make to the finals. This speaker has clear strengths and some very minor weaknesses. This speech is very captivating and needs you to pay attention to get some or any of its weaknesses. To the average listener, mistakes will not be picked from this speech. An average listener would pick it up as an excellent speech. This speaker has the ability to capture you even when you are not trying to intentionally follow the speech.
Thank you. So the speaker here is so good that even if you're not trying to pay attention, the way their speech is being presented just pulls you in. And then you find that you are distracted from whatever else you are trying to do. And for the minutes they'll be speaking, you find yourself just looking at them and listening and absorbing. Now, the average listener here will think this is an amazing speech, probably one of the best they've ever had. And it is only an experienced listener that will be able to speak some weaknesses. So only an experienced listener will be able to pick some weaknesses. And even the weaknesses they pick will be minor. So when you get such a speech, you are like, ha, this is a very good speech, because the weaknesses are minor. And even to find them, you had to work. It was not just given to you on a silver platter. No, you really had to work in order to catch the weaknesses that are being caught. You really had to be diligent in terms of listening to catch those minor mistakes, those minor weaknesses. So if that's the kind of speech that has been presented, it is very good. Pay attention. There is a tendency sometimes to think that a very good speech is excellent. When I speak about an excellent speech, we'll understand the difference between an excellent speech and a very good speech, because there are clear differences between a very good speech and an excellent speech. These speeches are very close to each other, and this is why I said, for example, a very good speech, if a person is presenting very good speeches, chances are very high they will make it all the way to semi-finals. But when we move to an excellent speech, then we are 100% sure that person will be at finals. So if this speech can get somebody all the way to finals and keep them in contention or put them in contention to be at finals, then that is just a very good speech. I hope we're together. Are we together, ladies and gentlemen? Let me hear if we're together. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I will move to the next beat, which is the final beat. Over to you, Harold.
All right, people are already putting up their hands even before you said you moved to the final bit. Okay, Odonkara, Aaron, please take us away. Be the one to read this for us.
Okay, thank you. Excellent to flawless. The standard of speech you would expect to see from a speaker at the grand final of the tournament. This speaker has many strengths and almost no weaknesses at all. Many times the speech is simply flawless. When you observe such a speech, you find that there is almost nothing at all to correct. Many times you can many times you can tell this speaker would, many times you tell the speaker could outcompete even experienced speakers. The speaker has the ability to capture you and make you forget that there are other things you need to pay attention in life. The type you wish you could continue to listen to even when time is up.
Excellent. So there are speakers who have such an excellent ability in speech. Chances are they have been very well trained at a public speaking academy or by a very good coach. And they have also exposed themselves to the world of speaking. They have been in speaking circles. They have been going for speaking tournaments, competitions. They've been taking every opportunity to speak. So by virtue of them having all this information and all this exposure, the moment they stand up to speak, the world is theirs. If you're listening to this speech, you forget that your life even exists. And for the moment the speech is on, all you can focus on is them. This kind of speech can even win the world championship. So you listen to this speech and all you can focus on is this person who is giving you this particular speech. And you forget that anything else exists in life. Now, if you are at time of some of these speeches, sometimes there is even the problem that occurs where you forget that they are supposed to run out of time. Because you've said a speech is 5 minutes. There are 5 minutes, 30 seconds in, and you didn't even realize you've been listening for 5 minutes. Why? The speech is that good. So when a speech is that good, when you have to give feedback, you don't even have negative feedback. Like you're looking for, like, to even get negative feedback, you really work hard. You really scratch your head looking for negative feedback. I'm not saying you won't find, maybe you will find, but sometimes even to look for negative feedback you're very petty. Some of us, we start to look for, the way you said Monday, you should not have said Monday, you should have said Monday. Like you get just very petty because there's really nothing to correct. This is world class. This is excellent. Very few people get there, but if anyone gets there, we give them their marks accordingly. We do it correctly. Now there's a number of times where certain speakers, because of their experience, will start giving you excellent speeches from as early as round 1. I usually encourage, if you've gotten excellent speeches from as early as round 1, please give people their marks, because by the end of the day, these marks go into tab and all. Don't say that because this is round 1, someone cannot get an 81, unless specifically CAP has instructed so. If CAP has instructed so, fine. But if CAP hasn't instructed so, or CAP has left it open, don't give it to your own discretion to refuse people who are giving excellent speeches the highest interval of marks. If they're actually doing it for real, and it can be proven that it is being done, give them their full marks. Unless, of course, CAP, at their discretion and for reasons they know, have instructed you otherwise. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the very basics of inspection marking. There are 2 other marking schemes I have. I hope I will be able to take you through both. I will start with one of them, the one that I think we use most popularly. If time allows, I will go into the third one. If time does not allow, you will bear with me, because I will have given you the one that I find we use the most because of the level of detail that it has. So let me just discuss it first in slide. Then let me first discuss it in slide. Then after discussing it in slide, I can now give you the details as I've done with the other one. But just for the record, ladies and gentlemen, are we learning? Are we learning? We are learning. We are learning. Yeah. Excellent. We
are learning, sir. We are learning.
Good. And there is a lot in this. I'm excited to see what we will have right by the time we are done. I'm excited for each and every one of you. Happy to have all of you join us. Now let's move to a more detailed do by inspection. And I will say it again. Inspection marking is especially used, or should especially be used, by experienced judges. So generally, especially for high stakes tournaments, we will not use inspection marking unless we don't have detailed marking, or we feel like the people we are dealing with are smart enough and understand. But inspection marking can be risky if someone is inexperienced because of the fact that a lot of it can be subjective. Okay, detailed marking is better because detailed marking will speak to you and tell you clearly what we are looking for. So let me just give you one example of a detailed marking. This is one of the examples where it was thought that content should take 30%, organization is 20%, effectiveness 10%, style and language would be 20%, delivery would be 20%, rather 20 marks. I think the total here is, the total here is still 100. So this is just an example. I will discuss each of these as I especially go back into the document with the detailed marking so that I can show you each and every one of them. That is okay. So just to highlight a few other things on detailed marking, in content we'll be looking at whether there was focus on the topic, whether there's knowledge and mastery of content, and whether the content is relevant to the topic we have. In organization, we want a clear intro, an excellent body and conclusion, and we also want to hear how connections are occurring from one part into the other. The transitions should be flawless, the transitions should be seamless. We also want to talk about whether the speech is effective. Is the speech successfully reaching as it's supposed to be? Understood? We can talk about style and language and all that, but because I'll be able to cover this detail shortly, let me just run over this. Now, how effective is this speech? How is the style and language? How is the delivery? Delivery, of course, has to do with things like non-verbal cues, and of course, the overall confidence of the speaker and all that, and all that. All that, of course, comes into what? All of that comes into public speaking. Now, I want to take us through this particular form. I'll show this form to us in a much clearer method, or a much clearer way. But before I get into that, don't try reading this. I know the graphics will be a problem, but I just if you're getting an idea of what this is, I just want to know who has used this form before. Raise your hand or message and say me. And if you've never used this, say not me. Who has ever used the form I have put up before? I know you can't read it clearly, but you're getting an idea. I'll show you the clearer one as I share a different screen. Who has ever seen this form before? Okay, I'm getting some not me. Someone has seen it. Not me. No, this one has not seen it. I like that answer. Somebody has not seen it, but they know someone who has seen this. Okay, good. Because I'll take you through this form and it will give you some massive insight. And you'll really understand the detail of how to best mark, how to best grade a particular speech. So let me, as you can see, we especially use it when we have, and we will get into reading again. So ladies and gentlemen, be ready to read. I say these sessions are not for me alone. These sessions are for us to interact. So be ready to read. The reading here is much shorter and the explanation is much longer. But be ready to read. There are about 12 things to read. So prepare accordingly. 12 of you be ready to read kindly. Now, let me set it up. There we go. Okay, let me just start with that. There, I hope we can see this. Somebody confirm that we can all see it. Excellent. So as you saw, this form can even have up to 10 speakers, so that you can only use this single form to evaluate all your speakers, so that you don't have to get several forms. But I want to explain the different criteria that are being taken into account. So somebody start us off at introduction.
Okay, so let me just have a look at the names. Just a little bit of a moment. All right, Ibrahim has over done it. Let me see someone else.
Harold, you can actually assign somebody.
Andy.
Harold, you can assign someone for introduction, someone for relevance, and someone for organization.
All right. So let us have Kaka to do introduction. Let us have Marion to do relevancy, and let us have Mildred to do organization. So I'll just repeat that. Kaka does introduction, then Marion does relevance, and then Mildred will do organization. Whenever you are ready, guys, Kaka,
Right.
take us away.
We start with introduction, then I'll explain.
All right, see introduction. Speaker has a well laid out introduction, uses facts, questions, quotations, etc.
Now, etc. of course could include things like narratives. etc. could include things like promises. I think we all know what facts are. We all know what questions are. We all know what quotations are. I could literally use this form to also do a whole public speaking training, but because that is not my task today, I will not do that. And then, of course, I only put a few here: facts, questions, quotations. You can also have promises, you can have narratives, and all that. Now, in this particular form, the marking is from 3 to 8. Okay, the marking is from 3 to 8, where, let me see if I can take you to the very bottom of the form so that you can see that for yourself. Where 3 is below average, as you can see on screen. 4 is average. 5 is above average. 6 is just good. 7 is very good. And 8 is excellent. I'll say it again: 3 is below average. If you have your notebook with you so that I don't have to come down here all the time, kindly write this. Write 3 is below average, at least for this session. I hope you all have access to your notebooks and pens, because I wish to not have to come down to the bottom of this page so that to constantly go through it. So I hope we have some notebooks so we can note this. 3 is below average. 4 is average. 5 is above average. I will explain each of these, worry not. 6 is good. 7 is very good. And 8 is excellent.
Yes, Elijah, as you proceed, there are a
Yes.
few questions in the chat space.
All right.
Someone says that, Innocent says that if you don't mind, please share this form with us in the forum. And Ibrahim says the same thing. Do you mind sharing this form and the slides after the session, please? So that is to you, Elijah.
Yeah, that will be arranged. Harold, I think I'll be able to do that with you so that you ensure they get to everyone.
Yeah, surely. No problem.
Excellent.
You can proceed.
All right. So I hope, have we all noted the from 3 to 8? Excellent. So that when I move back to the top of the form, we'll be able to move. Now, I'm putting this across so that we all understand from 3 to 8. Sometimes, for whatever reason, and the reason we use 3 to 8 is when you use 3 to 8, the lowest a person will score is a 36, because these are 12 different criteria. The lowest a person will score is a 36, and the highest a person will score is a 96. That means even when we are being horrible, you at least are assured of 36 marks that you will get. And then, of course, even when we are excessively generous, you will get a 96, which is very close to 100, which is amazing. There can be times where CAP decides instead of doing 3 to 8, they will do 1 to 6. Of course, if that happens in that particular tournament, CAP will keep you informed and you will know how to do 1 to 6. But let me get back into discussing each of the segments we are discussing. So I told you for introduction, if this is not, I start to discuss how some people are getting 8, some people are getting 3, and all that. But generally, this again will be very much dependent on whoever your CAP is and what level you're dealing with. Because you realize when we are evaluating students who are younger, like in primary school, we might be a bit more generous with how we award them here. But then when we deal with people who have an advanced education, like they're at the university and beyond, we will ask for a lot more. So let me take a sample maybe of somebody who is at the university and perhaps try and tell you how a section like this might end up being awarded. So an exceptional introduction, you find cases where the speaker starts you off with an interesting narrative with vivid description. At the same time, the speaker throws in a fact, puts in a quotation, asks you a question, and makes you a promise. Like they have done most of the things that are possible in an introduction. The way it's introduced, and I know somebody later on will even be covering the consideration for storytelling and narrative. So of course, I'll also not get into that because we're amazing trainer who will take us through that. So the way they weave all these things together, they give you their narrative, yet they also throw in facts in there, and the narrative has to have some good vivid description. They throw in their facts in there. They ask you a question, whether, and especially a rhetorical question, but it could be a question generally, and it all has to be relevant to the speech. They give you a quotation as well. Okay, so they're and then they're promising you. Promises most times will be something like this is just an example. It's not the only way to make a promise. By the end of this speech, you will understand why this and that. By the end of this speech, you will learn this and that. By the end of this speech, you will have become a person when it comes to this and that. Those are just merely examples of what promises would look like. So if they're able to combine most of these things, many times they will be scored anywhere from 7 to 7.5 all the way to 8. 7.5, especially because some people do not want to give people 8. So if you don't want to give them an 8, give them that 7.5. Of course, you can see here in the scores we have 7 and 8. So I'm saying most people who are able to do everything I have said, everything I have combined, that person can comfortably get an 8 because the quality of their introduction is already captivating. By the moment they start speaking, they have already given us so much value in terms of their speech. We have already learned from their facts. Our mind has already been engaged in questions. They're already giving us a quotation to engage. When you're taught the power of narratives and stories, you will understand. But for now, let me just say it like this: they've already put in a lot of power into a lot of power has already come through their narrative together with their vivid descriptions and all that. So, ladies and gentlemen, this would be at the discretion of CAP as they will advise you in your judge's briefing. But from where I stand, if they hit this properly, I don't think we should be mean. I think we should give people an 8. Okay. A 7 would be somebody who attempts to achieve all that I have said, even though they have not successfully achieved it. So that is just very good. A 6 would be good. There is an actual introduction here. There is either use of 2 or 3 things. They have used a fact, a question, a quotation. They have used a narrative and a question. They have used a narrative, a quotation, and a fact, so on and so forth. Then what you would get in a 5, maybe they have only used 2 of these things. Okay. What you would get in a 4, they have only used 1 of these things. They have a very good narrative that is introducing things, or they have a very amazing quote that is introducing these things. That will get them a 4. And then you'd give them a 3 as bare minimum. Sometimes there is not even an introduction at all. So if there is no introduction at all, we will just give a 3 because we are good people. We do not hate people. We don't want people to be heartbroken. They, of course, need to join the public speaking academy, but it's okay. If they don't want, they should not give up on their public speaking journey. So at that level, we will give them a 3. I want to understand something, ladies and gentlemen. At this point, do we understand, or do you need me to repeat anything on how to score between a 3 and an 8 when it comes to introduction? Put that in messages. I want to know. Do we understand, or is there a question? Have you understood how to score from a 3 to 8 in introduction? I want to hear yes or no. I see reactions. That is wonderful. I also want to see some messages. Great. Anthony, you can tell me maybe which part should need a bit more clarity, or is it the whole thing? Anthony, you can say something.
Anthony, you can unmute and talk. Why do you need clarity? Is it with a particular fact or with the whole introduction thing? Yeah, surely.
And if you have a problem with your microphone, Anthony, you can also type it in the messages.
Yeah, Anthony says in the messages he only needs just a summary on the whole introduction part, whereas Susan Karunji says explain more, please. So maybe you would just have a summary of the introduction part while explaining a little bit more in a way that they can understand. Over to you, Elijah.
Okay, fine. So there is a person who let me use especially the 8. The 8 is someone who'd use either 5 or 4 of these methods of starting. What do I mean by method of starting? A fact is a way to start. A question is a way to start. A quotation is a way to start. A story, a narrative is a way to start. Giving a promise is a way to start. Okay. So again, this will be at the description of whoever your cap is. But just for the sake of this training, allow me to put it like this. If somebody has the capacity to employ all 5 successfully, or 4 at your discretion, I'm talking about what 4 or 5 am I talking about? Facts, questions, quotation, narrative, promises. Okay, these are things that we train people when we're training public speaking as methods of introduction. So here I might be working from a level where I'm thinking this maybe has been pre-trained, because I really don't want to get into public speaking training right now. I want to focus on adjudication. But I think we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. As I say it, you'll also learn that you should do that in your own public speaking. So that will allow us to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So I'll say it again. Methods, facts, questions. Facts, of course, things like, did you know, blah, 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 blah. Scientists have found, blah, 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 blah. Studies indicate, blah, 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 blah. Okay, those are facts. Questions. Of course, questions is, did you know, have you ever thought about this, or that? Have you ever done this, or that? Have you ever wondered this, or that? Those are questions. Quotations, I think you know quotations, quotes, and all that. Somebody says the heights by great men were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were busy toiling upward in the night. That is a quotation right there. Hope we are together. All these things, okay. There is promises. By the end of this speech, we'll have learned this. And other ways of promising that I could also get into if I was especially doing a public speaking training. There is a narrative as well. Somebody starts with, the other day, this and that. Once upon a time, this and that. I was walking along the road and then blah, 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 blah. Whatever way, I think we all know how to do narratives, and I know there'll be further training on narratives and how to pay attention to those. So all that, if somebody uses all these 5 I've spoken about in a way that it doesn't sound forced, it sounds like it is well weaved, one goes into the other, into the other, into the other properly. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that should be an 8, and at worst a 7.5. The important bit is as they use all 5, they go into each other in a way that is related. It shouldn't sound like I forced a narrative, then I forced a fact, then I forced a question, then I forced a quotation. No, they should come into each other properly. I'm getting a question. Once you're talking about facts, should there be like real facts, or whatever the speaker chooses to be fact is a fact? Honestly, they should be real facts. So they can't make up things. They can't make up the fact that we went to Mars. We have never gone to Mars as people yet. So you can't make stuff up. So it has to be real. And the reason I'm saying this, and this I would say especially in a public speaking training, whenever we listen to a public speaker, we are supposed to learn. There are 3 things a public speaker is supposed to achieve. And it's good if I say this, there is a section down here, I will have to say less. Now, there are 3 things a public speaker has to give us. And I like to call it speech value, because if a public speaker is not giving us that, I would rather have watched puppy videos instead of listening to them. Okay, I would rather watch puppy videos. Puppies are cute, they add value to my life because they're interesting, they might make me laugh and make me feel nice on the inside. So if your speech does nothing for me, I'd rather watch puppy videos. So what are the 3 things your speech should do for me? Number 1, I should learn. Okay, I should get some learning from your speech. I should learn a new fact or a new thing altogether. So if I'm not learning anything, why did I come here? My life has not changed. I like to tell people, change my life if I'm listening to your speech. And as an adjudicator, those are things we will be looking at. Change my life. Now, 1, teach me something. Whether the speech is a narrative speech, it is an informative speech, it is a philosophical speech, whatever type, whether it's a selling speech, it doesn't matter. If I am here to listen to you, teach me something new, something I did not know when I started listening to your speech. That's 1. Number 2, change my mind. I can't start listening to your speech when I'm racist, and then when I'm done, I'm still racist. I can't start listening to your speech when I'm lazy and I have a lazy attitude. By the time I've left your speech, I am still lazy. I can't start listening to your speech in one state and leave in the same state. What have you done for me? Your speech is useless. There was no value if you don't achieve this. That's the second thing. I hope all this is clear, ladies and gentlemen. Are we learning? Then the third thing I need your speech to do, I need your speech to call me to action. I need your speech to tell me what I'm going to do with my life or my thoughts. Change my mind, change my thoughts. Tell me, because I have listened to your speech, what am I going to do with my life now? How am I going to change my mind? So I started listening to your speech when I hated people of a particular tribe and race. And you give your speech and I still hate them. You have not changed my mind. I still hate them. Okay, I started listening to your speech when I had given up in life. When I thought that which I knew was the best. You have not said anything in your speech that has changed my mind. Ladies and gentlemen, your speech had no value. 3 things I need to learn. I need to have my mind changed and I need my actions directed. That is speech value, and we will discuss it somewhere here and how that is how that is marked. So add me some information. Change my mind about how I view the world. Change my perspective. Then tell me what to do. Tell me to stop hating my teachers. Tell me to love my lecturers. Okay. Tell me to love my lecturers. Tell me to love that which I studied, even though I studied what I studied to scare my village. And now that I am studying it, I am the one who's scared. Okay. Tell me, change my mind. Okay. Make me love what I study, even though, like I said, it is actually scaring me right now, and I'm wondering whether I made the right decision. So if I left your speech and I'm still thinking I made the wrong decision to study what I studied, you have not helped me. Tell me something that will make me love what I'm doing. I'm not saying change everything about a person's life. I mean, speeches are not long enough to do that. But change something, change some perspective, encourage the people to take some sort of action. Are we learning, ladies and gentlemen? Are we learning? Is this exciting? Am I changing your life? Am I changing your life? Let me go for that one, the most extreme. Am I changing your life? Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that's what I said. So I said 8 is if they can use all 5 or sometimes even 4, but they use them so excellently and they move one into the other in an excellent way. That's number 1. If that's an 8. A 7 is where maybe they use 4 or 3 of them. Okay. And they still need to weave into each other seamlessly. Okay. A 6 is where they might use 2 or 3 and they still weave into each other seamlessly. So throughout, they need to weave into each other seamlessly. Now, a 5, if a person has weaved them into each other seamlessly and maybe they have used only 2 of them, that can still be a 5. Or they have used 3 of them, but only 2 have weaved into each other seamlessly and the third is struggling. That might become a 5. In a 4, a person has used either 1 or 2 of these methods only, and they have not gotten, they still, they could have gone into each other seamlessly, or there has been just a slight struggle, but not an extremely evident struggle. Then at that person, you can get that person, say, a 4. Then there is the other one who either did not have a good introduction at all, or rather, just for the record, a 4 can also be, they used at least 1 of these. So it is seamless because they only used 1, they did not really need to weave 1 into the other. Then a 3, of course, is the case where they either had no introduction or it was just horrible introduction and all that. We give them a 3. So my hope is that at this point we have understood between 3 and 8 for introduction, because I want to call whoever was to read relevance to read it so that I also explain that. Who was to read relevance?
Relevance. The speaker's speech is relevant to the topic, theme, and objectives covered.
Now here, pay attention. A number of times, of course, all times, there is a topic to the speech. But what can be even more interesting, sometimes a tournament has a theme. So the speaker who is smart enough to not only tie the topic, but also tie that topic and their speech to the overall theme, that is something we pay attention to. And anytime we give a topic, there are objectives that need to be covered. Okay. So if the person is relevant, it means their speech is very well related to the topic. Now, I'm talking about now people you can score in the 7 and 8 category. Their speech is very well done with the topic. Their speech is related to the overall theme if there is one. And their speech has covered all the necessary objectives, because by the time I'm giving you a particular topic, you can clearly tell there are certain things I want you to discuss. Okay. If I'm talking about if I talk about, say, the speech is something to do with I don't know, say gender, there are clearly certain objectives I want you to meet. Even without me telling you what those objectives are, you need to be smart enough to figure that out as a speaker. So I have to ask, were objectives about this topic met? And sometimes in briefing, we'll even tell you what the objectives are. We don't always do that, but if we feel it's necessary, you will get that briefing from CAP. So you ask yourself, if there was relevance to the topic, there was relevance to the theme, there was relevance to the objectives. Perfectly, excellently. And all of it is seamless. Kindly note, seamlessness is important. The speech shouldn't feel like the we are talking about like 7 or 8. Now, if somebody is not relevant to anything, to topic, to theme, or to objectives, that's a 3. If somebody is relevant to maybe only one and not the others, you can move it to 4. If the person is relevant to 2 of them, you can move it to 5. If somebody is relevant to all 3 or has made an attempt at all 3, but they are not doing an excellent job of making it seamless, now that becomes a 6. And I think I've already explained a 7 and an 8. So I hope we are learning. If you did not capture that very well, I believe this recording will be available. I highly encourage you to go and listen to the recording. I think it will come out more clearly. I will still be available. I will still avail myself if any question will need to be asked. Is that okay? Are we learning? Are we together? Are we together, ladies and gentlemen? I want to see more responses. I can see a few, but I want more responses. Thank you. Thank you. When I say it's seamless, it feels like it just, I don't know. I wish I could give an example right now. But it's something as an experienced listener, you would be able to tell. It feels like one part is simply going into the other without struggle. The same things we learned in English about how we transition, say, when we are writing our compositions. The way it flows from one paragraph to the other, hence from one thing to the other. It feels seamless. It feels very natural. It doesn't feel like something ended and another started. It just feels like all is moving. That's what I mean when I say seamless, Mr. Anthony. Now, who was reading organization?
Under organization, we have the speaker. A speaker has a good layout in their speech, and the flow is logical.
This one is self-explanatory and is one place where most good speakers can score 7 or 8 again. There is a way when you arrange your speech, the way one thing happens, like let me use a narrative. In a narrative, things do not happen before others. Okay, so the speech has to flow very flawlessly. There has to be a good layout. The speech has to flow in a very logical way where this idea leads to that idea, this idea leads to that idea. But then I must warn adjudicators. Pay attention to things like foreshadowing and flashback. If there is an excellent use of foreshadowing and flashback, we still consider that as excellent organization. It should just be clear, it should just be evident and obvious. We should not be confused on what happened before what or what went before what. So as long as there is a good layout in their speech, there is a logical flow in their speech, and things are excellent and amazing in that way, organization is one of the places they can easily hit the 7 or the 8. The flow has to be logical. Now, again, somebody who's probably scoring high here, generally their speech is also excellent. One thing I must say is all these sections are not independent. There is a lot of interdependence between this. For example, it is unlikely you will score high on relevance and fail on organization. It is unlikely you will score high on organization and fail on relevance. These things are very much related. Okay, so this will again be, I'd say this will be at the discretion of the judge who's listening to this speech, but I said as long as it's logical, flows one into the other, if flashback and foreshadowing has been used and it's made clear, the speaker here can score a 7 or an 8. And especially if the speech is already relevant, it has a good introduction, and most of the other things I'm about to discuss down here also there, chances of scoring a 7 or an 8 here are good. Many people will actually score a 6. Many people will score a 6. Few people will score a 5 or a 4. And even people scoring a 5 or a 4 are those who are doing horribly as speakers. The ones I talked about who would need to be in the academy to be taught public speaking properly. But the majority of people here will score from a 6 all the way to an 8. And the majority will really be at 6. Most people will be just good. I hope that helps. If there's a question, someone can ask. Let me have somebody assigned to read supporting ideas, time management, and audience engagement. Let me just have people assigned by Harold, then we get into that.
Okay, surely. So just to get you clearly, what are they reading? They're reading supporting ideas and time management, right? Only.
Yes, just assign one person for each of these 3.
All right, so let us have Anthony read supporting ideas and Ibrahim to read time management. Thank you.
And somebody to do audience engagement, Harold, if we have someone.
Actually, as of now, yeah, we have Oroma Emmanuel, a new person that has added on, but within the audience, I'm not seeing. Yeah, you can proceed, sure.
All right, so let's start with supporting ideas.
Okay.
Supporting ideas. Speaker makes use of examples to break monotony, such as stories, details, songs, among others, to keep the audience hooked and the speech memorable.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I speak of supporting ideas, these are, I'm calling it's being called supporting ideas, but essentially, put more correctly, these are figures, the use of expressions of various kinds, the use of various stylistic devices, essentially those things you learnt in English. Whatever that, depending on your syllabus, it was either taught in English or it was taught in literature, whether oral and written, whichever. So when they start to use things like similes, when they start to use things like proverbs, when they start to employ things like vivid description in order to build excellent pictures, when they start to use things like onomatopoeia, and all these, just to mention but a few. Of course, there are many others. There are more than 1,000 different things that you can use to make this interesting. When they start to use interesting rhyme schemes in their speech, kindly note, I'm not saying when they should give a poem, but, and this is public speaking training, there's a difference between a poem and a public speech. So you can still give a speech, but then it has a rhyme scheme somewhere, or there's a way words are used and all that. And one thing goes into the other beautifully. There's use of similes, there's use of, you really detail your stories and all that. Essentially using all these different stylistic devices. When they're used in plenty and at just the right amount, okay, let me not say plenty, at just the right amount, you don't want your entire speech to be simile after simile, story after story, and we still don't learn anything. No. When the amount is just right, okay, in that everything else is met and you can tell, and this is where now we need to practice and everything, and I hope we ever get the chance to do that. And you can tell that there was no way to use any more of these devices we have called supporting ideas in there. They're at their maximum and they have been used very well, and they have added a lot of flavor and value to the speech. When that is happening successfully, you start to move towards 8. So 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8. Unfortunately, many people will not even score a 6. because many people will give an entire speech without any of these. But it is very important to put this in, to have such excellent use of language, to have vivid description. Like I always question, how are you giving me a narrative and you're not giving me any vivid descriptions? Especially if it is a narrative speech, one of the strongest things you need to use is vivid description. I need to see the images you're talking about. I need to feel what you're saying. And the best way to do that is to use vivid description. Okay, so most people here will not even score a 6. Many people here will actually score a 5, some a 4. If they use none of these devices at all, they will score a 3. So if they use none of them, they'll score a 3. If they make an attempt and end up using only 1 or 2, they'll be either at 4 or 5. Many people might use just a few, maybe 3, 4. They can end up at 6, and this will be most people. Most people will get a 6. But then there are those exceptional ones who have really thought this through, and they have really planned their speeches. Such people will score in the 7 or 8 category for this part of supporting ideas. I hope we are together. Are we together? All right. Somebody read time management. Whoever was to read.
All right. Time management. Speaker has a good time management strategy to allow introduction, contents with a proper summary that unites their main points.
Excellent. So if there's been good time management, we have good time and excellent time for introduction, good time and excellent time for content, good time and excellent time for us to get a summary. And all of this happens especially within the allocated time. So if a speech was allocated 5 minutes, the speaker uses plus or minus 10 seconds. So if they use 450, it's allowed. If they use 510, it's allowed. If they use 5, it's allowed. So a speaker who is, let me take 5 minutes or 4 minutes as an example. So the speaker who was told to use 4 minutes actually uses 4 minutes. The speaker who used the 4 minutes, or yeah, the speaker who used 4 minutes and they were supposed to use 4 minutes, yet successfully, kindly note this, successfully had an excellent introduction, or rather, let me say, they properly did the introduction within the allocated time. They did their body, and they also did their summary. If a speaker is able to accomplish all this, like their time doesn't run out and they have not finished their speech. If a speaker is able to accomplish all this, I always tell people this is one of the easiest places to get an 8. Because if I spoke within the allocated time, honestly, I spoke within the allocated time and I successfully delivered my introduction, I successfully delivered my body, and I gave my summary, and you have good speech value, you have learned a lot during this speech and everything. Ladies and gentlemen, at that point in time, I have given you a lot in terms of time, or rather in terms of how I manage time. And I want you to, again, at this point in time, notice how time management would be correlated with organization. It is unlikely you will score high on organization, yet you're scoring terribly on time management. Now, many people on time management can get a 7 or an 8. Many people can. Rarely will we have people get a 3, 4, 5, especially if they use up their time. Now, of course, there are cases where people were given 4 minutes and they speak for 2 minutes. CAP will advise you, depending on the tournament, at their discretion and at your discretion as a judge, whether you're giving such a person a 3, a 4, or a 5, but definitely they are not getting a 6, a 7, or an 8. Time management is one of the easiest places to score everything, because if you stay within time and organize yourself well, even if you're doing horribly on supporting ideas and other things, except maybe organization, if you might be doing product supporting ideas, but because you're managing your time well, you can actually get yourself a full 8. I hope we are learning. Are we learning? Thank you. Let's move to audience engagement, whoever was reading that.
Speaker demonstrates awareness of audience engagement and meets the needs of the audience with examples and choice of language.
I'll start with the last bit, choice of language and examples. Audience engagement has to do with how you are able to ensure your audience feels you. And part of that is your choice of language. I cannot be speaking to people who are, I don't know, people who have never stepped into med school, and my choice of language is excessively complicated language in cardiology and neurology and all that. I cannot speak complicated language from medicine, and I expect my listeners to understand, yet none of them has ever stepped into med class. I cannot be speaking complicated engineering. None of them has ever stepped into engineering class. Now, a mistake that happens sometimes with law, you cannot be speaking to us complicated law things, yet we have not been exposed to law school. We have no idea what the basics of that language is. So it becomes important if the speaker is making excellent use of language, they're choosing the language the audience understands. Because I'll say it again, the onus to be understood is not on the onus to understand is not on the audience, but the onus to be understood is on the speaker. So if they're already choosing their language very well, you already know you're already accrediting their choice of language. If they're choosing examples appropriately, the kind of examples that the audience that is there can relate to, already that is also good audience engagement. Now, a number of times there are speakers who will even, and now this will be done especially by those excellent speakers, they will feed off the audience in, like, they see how the audience reacts or proacts to their speech, and that determines how they engage or what they'll say next. They'll know whether now I should give a joke. They know whether now I should say something sad or something happy. You know, they determine all these things based on their audience. So the fact that they're aware of their audience and can give this audience what it needs, then they have excellent audience engagement. Rarely will people get an 8 in this. I think in all my public speaking engagements to date, only one person ever got an 8, and it was because they did a very exceptional thing. Everything else I said was amazing, and they also had props in a number of ways that were just being used to engage the audience. Of course, this was a prepared speech; it was not an impromptu. And I was like, "Whoa! I think you're the first person ever that could get an 8. No one else has ever gotten an 8 since." So most people meeting what I have said properly will get a 7. They're excellently engaging their audience. They're using examples that are relevant. Their choice of language is on point and is related very well to this audience. Most people will get a 7. People who will push themselves excessively will get an 8. But that is rare. I've never given an 8 except just once. So most people here are likely going to score a 7. Enough people who are also trying will get a 6. And the people who are not doing much might get a 4 and a 5. Then horrible speakers will get a 3. The speakers I said, they just lose you. If you don't pay attention, they are lost. You just get lost because their audience engagement is horrible. Those will give you you'll give such a 3. Once in a while, a 4. Those who try to have audience engagement a bit 5 or 6, then those who really do really well can get north of 7, and 7 will be most people. 8 is really rare possible, but really rare. I don't even know if I ever scored an 8 myself. That's how rare it is. Although I now know how to score an 8, so I can score an 8 now. But for the longest time, I also didn't know how to score an 8. So I hope we are learning. I really hope we are learning. I know I'm trying to hurry this up because I want to finish everything. Yet time is not on my side apparently. But I hope we are learning. Are we learning? Are we learning? All right, I see some people are learning. Let's have Harold, we can assign the next beats to people. Excellent. When I go through these,
just let me know what topics: body language, eye contact, creativity, vocal delivery, and clarity. All those, right?
Yes. Let's assign a person to each.
Okay, let us have Kisa Shadrach Philmon talk about body language. We could have Christine Mutsiri talk about eye contact. Then we could have Brenda Musime talk about creativity. And then Amolo Sevia will talk about vocal delivery. So we only need one person. Okay, she's here. Let us have Marion talk about clarity. So it is Shadrach first, followed by Christine, Brenda, Marion will come last, and then I think Clay will talk about vocal delivery. So let us have Shadrach first. Whenever you are ready, good sir, take us through.
Body language?
Yes. Ikiso Shadrach, you can unmute and read body language.
The speaker uses physical gestures effectively.
That's it. It's that easy. There are speakers who really know how to use their hands. Now, I'll add a few things. They know how to use their hands, and they also know how to use even their facial expressions very effectively. I wish this was an in-person physical session, because then I would be able to demonstrate a lot more. You cannot have a happy face when you're talking about sad things, unless it is the sarcasm in the speech, and that is a style. Probably a lesson for another day. Similarly, you cannot say you are happy and excited and you look very sad and unmoved. You just can't do that. Then there's this one is best taught in person, but I'll just try and lecture it. There are ways where you can move your hands in a very particular way that allows you to convey your message. There are ways you can move your hands and it tells us you actually know what you're talking about, or you're fully convinced. And then there are those who might choose to rest in one place, and like one mistake you do not want to do is you do not want to just clasp your hands together and put them on top of a lectern or a podium or whatever you might choose to call it. You don't want to do that. You want to ensure your body is moving in a good and excellent way. If you can make good use of the stage through movement, that is also encouraged. These things apply whether you're a graceful speaker or you are an animated speaker. It applies across board. So if you have any of these, ladies and gentlemen, and you're doing this excellently, we start to award you towards 8. Now, if you're doing it and it's not lining very well with the speech, you might start to score at about 5 or 6. But if you're doing it excellently, 7, 8 is your portion. If you don't do it at all, 3. If the judges are too nice, 4, but more likely 3. You will not get anything. Use your body, use your face. You cannot look at me with a flat face and clasp your hands together and do nothing. And just stand in one place and do nothing again. Honestly, you're getting a 3 or a 4. But if you make use of body language and facial expression and all this, and it's so relevant to the speech, and these are some of the things that really make a speech captivating and engaging, by the way, then now for body language, you'll start to score towards 7 and towards 8. I hope we are learning. Christine, I don't know if you have a question. I can see your hand is up. Christine, do you have a question?
No, it's
Our
not.
hand remained up.
Okay,
by
Brenda, is that a
default.
question? Because I see you still raised your hand.
No, it's not.
Okay. Whoever's reading eye contact, read eye contact.
So eye contact. The speaker uses eye contact to connect with the audience and display confidence.
Now, as an adjudicator, pay attention to the speaker's eye contact. This is one place where a speaker can also score an 8 with ease. I'll tell you why it is easy to score an 8 here. The reason it is easy to score an 8 here is you can give them an 8 if you're too mean, 7.5 or 7, but that is mean. If they have maintained eye contact with the audience throughout. They might not maintain eye contact with you as a judge, but they have maintained eye contact with the audience. So look at where their eyes are at. Where they are looking at any point. Are they possibly looking at someone? If they are possibly looking at someone at any point, they are going to get an 8. Whether they looked at you throughout or not, that does not matter. They will get their full 8 and they will move. The problem is when they start, there's bad advice I hear people being given, look at people's foreheads, look over their heads, and I'm like, no, there is lack of connection there. I can tell how the speech will sound and feel when they're making eye contact with someone, even when they're not making eye contact with you. So if you're marking this, it is important to watch where the eye contact of the speaker has gone. If it has been on the audience throughout, I highly encourage, just give them their full 8 for eye contact. It doesn't have to have been looking at you and other judges throughout. As long as they have looked at members of the audience throughout, this is public speaking. So if they have looked at the public, give them full marks for eye contact. Even if sometimes there's times where a speaker throws their eyes to the right or left when they have a thought or when they're thinking, you can still choose to give them an 8. If you're really mean is when you come down to a 7. Because, I mean, it's only one incident. Can we not be mean? Let's just give them They're 8. This is one of the easiest places to score an 8, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope we encourage people we are interacting with good eye contact. And as they do that, let's give them their 7s. The others, of course, I think you can make logical extrapolations on how someone would get a 3, 4, 5, all the way to 6. Because even in a 3, it's obvious. Someone who has made no eye contact whatsoever, they've been looking over people's heads, looking on the floor and all that. There's no way such people will get any high marks. They'll get a 3 or a 4 if you're too nice. Adur, you have a question. Marion. Marion, is that a question?
No, I don't have a question though. I'm just preparing for the part that was given to me.
Okay, fine. That's okay. Let's move to creativity. Who's on creativity?
I am, and for creativity, the speaker displays creativity in their presentation.
Now, it is very important for me now to really get into this. In fact, this is where most of the speech is, and it is possible in future this particular one might end up being further expanded. So right now, I'll give you the form that we work with right now and how it exists right now. But in future, it might be expanded because of all the things that are in here. Here are some things you're looking at in creativity. One very simple thing is, if a prop is relevant and it has been used, especially where we have prepared speeches, I'm giving you a few things and I'll tell you how combinations can earn you an 8. If a prop needed to be used and a prop has been used, because I know in impromptu, sometimes people might not always know how to use props, but the more creative ones can figure out a prop that they can use. And remember, props don't have inherent relevance. It is how the speaker will talk about their speech and their prop that will make it relevant or not. I might be talking about computers and my prop is a sweater. You'd think if I'm talking about computers, my prop is a computer. Yes, but no. If it's a computer, that's okay. But if it's not a computer and I have made this sweater relevant to the speech and the computer, that is still me doing well with the prop. That's number one. Number two, it is in this creativity also that you look at speech value. The things I said whatever kind of speech you get, you must give us speech value. I must learn. I must have my perspective changed. Okay, I must learn. I must have my perspective changed, and I must have myself called to some action. That is to say, I've been told to do something or to stop doing something. The capacity of a speaker to take any title or any theme and make it do these things. Okay, at least 2 out of 3, and the 2 out of 3, especially I'm talking because some people might know too much. They might not always. You might not always learn because you are a reader, you are a geek, you know everything. So you might not always learn. But the thing that must happen then, there must be changing of people's minds. There must be calling people into action or calling them out of a particular action. The ability of a speaker to do that all falls under creativity. Okay. And then there is a way sometimes when we give speakers, I don't know if we've had these trainings on, you give a speaker a title and you also give them a theme. The capacity of the speaker to tie the title to the theme. Okay, maybe the speaker has been told the theme of the event is something on democracy. The speaker has been given a title about the youth, and they have successfully tied the title of youth or gender to the theme of the tournament, that is democracy. If they can do this, tie title and theme properly, give us the learnings of at least 2 out of 3. Ensure that I'll say give us the learnings of at least 2 out of 3. If there is a prop also, that prop has been made relevant to that speech. At this point in time, someone is either scoring a 7 or 8 in creativity. They're either scoring a 7 or 8 in creativity. Now, the easiest way to put this is take the various things I have said and then just assign 2 marks to each of them. Good work with props and relevance of the prop, 2 marks to that. Changing people's minds, put 2 marks to that. Calling me to a particular action, put 2 marks to that. Then if it's if you need to relate the theme and the title and all, put 2 marks to that. You realize that's an 8. With that metric, you will know whether a person will score an 8 or a 7, a 6 or a 5, a 4 or a 3. Of course, even if they've only done 1, because of the way this metric looks like, you'll just give them the bare minimum, the 3. You'll not give them a 1 or a 0. You'll give them a 3. I hope that is well explained and has been understood. Creativity, in fact, carries most of the speech. That's why I say maybe in future this should even be expanded so that more marks is assigned at this creativity section. But yeah, for now, it's still the 8 marks and it is assigned as I have said. That is okay. Are we together? Let me know if we are together. Okay, I see a number of people. Thank you very much. Excellent. Whoever was reading vocal delivery.
Yeah, on vocal delivery, we have overall audibility, use of speech, tone, and pauses.
That's basically it. The person needs to be audible. I said audible. I did not say they need to shout. They need to be loud. I did not say shout. I said loud. So if the person is audible in the sense of they can be heard, they are adequately loud. That is one criteria. The second thing, in their vocal delivery, they know how to vary speed in their speech. So there are parts where they know when to speak slowly. There are parts where they know how to speak quickly. They vary their tone. Okay. They know when to take that tone up. They know when to take that tone down. They vary things like their pitch. Okay. And of course, they have excellent use of pauses as well, because we use pauses to create impact in a speech. So if a speaker has used pauses excellently, they're putting pauses in just the right places in just the right way, then ladies and gentlemen, right then, right there, if they're doing now all these things I've spoken about, that's already a speaker who's scoring a 7 or an 8. You can choose to use the same logic of 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 to help you determine what it is you're giving. Are they adequately loud or they are not too loud? That can be one criteria. How are their use of pauses? You know, we use pauses to create dramatic effect and to also allow the audience to absorb things. So if again there is excellent use of pauses and all that, you can say that's another criteria. Then you can go into the tone and how they are varying their tone. If they're varying their tone excellently, that's something you will assign. And then of course, how are they varying their speed? That's another criteria. Those are like 4. You can decide to assign 2 to each of them. Then you have your 8. Many people who are very good speakers, enough times if they are not conscious of all 4 sections, many people will actually score a 6 because they'll either forget to vary their speed or to vary their tone or to pause. They'll forget at least 1. But a speaker who's paying attention, who's being focused and intentional with their speech, will hit everything. And at that point in time, you will decide whether it's a 7 or an 8, depending also on how just generally the whole speech has been. I hope we are learning. Now let me go to, let's have somebody read clarity. It seems like I'll not go to the third metric, but I feel these 2 metrics are the most used, so that's okay. Because I see our time.
Okay. All right. So
Clarity.
I could just sure. Go on.
Clarity. Speaker uses a clear language, easily understood, descriptive, and engaging vocabulary.
So the speech has to be clear. What is the speech? The speech has to be clear. So when I talk about clear language, and I think I even explained this much earlier, the language should be clear in that it is easily understood. Here's what we're looking for in clarity. If with any questions, wondering anywhere what happened or what is going on. If there was a particular description, the description was well given, the image was built properly. If I was to understand or see a certain scene unfold, you have described it excellently, it has unfolded well. Then of course, the way you have used your language is clear. Now, note how clarity could be marked differently in the sense of, if I'm speaking to, it's very audience dependent. For example, when I'm judging a group of doctors and they use a lot of medical terms and the entire audience is doctors, this speech will still get full clarity because the audience is doctors. If you're talking to architects, everyone is an architect, and you use the lingo that is used in architecture, which everyone understands because they're architects, this speech still has clarity. But when you come and give that speech to an audience that has no understanding of architecture, this speech does not have clarity because they do not understand what you're saying. Now, many times people in this category will score anywhere from 6 to 8. Those are the most common, 6 to 8. 6 to 8 is very common for people to score here. Horribly, speakers who are doing horrible are the ones who will give you a 3 or a 4. Again, this one will be very much given to your will be very much left to your discretion, depending on how CAP has explained this to you. Now, there is a question that is being asked: how can a speaker effectively deal with filler words? I will answer that when somebody reads the next bit. So let's have someone assigned. I don't know if someone was assigned coherence. Harold, was anyone assigned? If not, you can assign now.
Right, no one was assigned for coherence, but okay, let me just have a look at the hands. Could we have Anthony Muduku just read for us coherence, and then we can finish because we are way past time. Okay, Anthony, over to you.
Coherence. Speakers lack of use of words like a,
So essentially, these are filler words. So if a speaker has not used filler words, you give them their maximum score, an 8. This is another one of those I tell you, it's very easy to score everything. Because clearly the speaker has not used filler words, then give them the full score. Give them everything that they have gotten. So you want to say all that. To answer Hood's question, the way to deal with that is to simply make a pause. Do the RM in your head. Do not sound it. Do the RME in your head. Don't go where we can hear you. No, do it in your head. It will come out as a pause. That's one of the simplest ways to deal with the use of filler words and to get rid of them from your speech. Because you usually say RM when you're thinking. Say that in your head. Think, and just make it sound like a pause, or you'll be fine. But to just conclude, coherence is very simple. If the speaker has not used any word at all, give them their 8 marks. If the speaker maybe has used 1 or 2, give them their 7. Beyond there, it is up to your description to the very end. So if a speaker uses it throughout, every sentence, they say something else, okay, now we are not singing. Why are we singing? I thought this was a speech. So if the speaker now starts to use that and do that, now they are definitely getting a 3 for me. So if it's after every sentence, now I'm tired. No, you don't do that. So I'll say it again. Coherence is one of the easiest places to score an 8. Just don't use filler words. Somebody doesn't use filler words, they get their full marks. So you'll notice there are particular areas where people will easily get an 8. There are places where they'll have to struggle. If your captain decides, if your captain might leave this form open, that is to say they will use anything from 36 to 96. Somebody will be able to score in between there. In a case where that is different, your CAP will tell you if they want to, if they want to standardize the math. They'll tell you and they'll give you instructions on how to do it. Maybe they will tell you the highest marks is this and that. Then they will show you the math. I could show you the math now, but I don't want to do that. But if ever I'm competing, you're anywhere and I get to compete, I'll teach you the math if I need it standardized. At some point, at a personal level, I'm not saying this is standard, I'm just saying at a personal level, I felt it is good for people to just score all the way from 36 to 96 so that they can be taught where they need to correct, because sometimes people have good vocal delivery, but they have horrible coherence. So they can be shown this is exactly what you need to work on, this is exactly what you need to work on. You're scoring very well on creativity, you're not doing as well on one thing or the other. So most times I'll work with the full scale just to give people that option. I hope that is okay. I am tempted to stop here, so I'll not go through the third one. But the two that I have shown you, the 2 marking and grading metrics, are the ones that are most widely used. The first one, especially by people who have used this one a lot, therefore have become experts. But this one I have just shown you as the last one is more widely used because even if you're not very experienced, once you get an explanation like the one I have given you, you already can start to know how to score people in a way that is fair. And it's also much easier to standardize across, to have the same standard across many judges with varying experience. So I have so much more to say, but allow me to stop here and hand over back to Harold. Thank you all for listening. It's been a wonderful class and a wonderful one.
Okay, we thank you, Elijah Bakari, for that very wonderful session. So because Elijah wants us to be interactive, so those that really appreciate what he has done, just put yes, we appreciate. If you think he has changed your